Shows the boys attention 'cause she don't get none at home. Queen of Carolina swears that she's the only one. Sweet teeth and happy feet are her forte. Queen of Carolina calls me King Hurricane. Ashes to ashes, surrounding your trouble. Dust to dust to dust to dust to the girls who dare not cuddle. And chicken legs are thumping me to the line at the base. Lady Gaga singing sultry to my poker face. Call me, yeah, call me. Call me, yeah, yeah. Call me King Hurricane. Red dressing on a greyhound with once silver wings, footsie flying, mile-highing, 6 strings on wooden things. Sex herring, neighbors staring. Now I think it's time to go, 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 go. Untrustworthy neighbors safe and sound asleep in an exit row. Turkey feather lost in a fox's file. Somewhere a pheasant feather wrapped in a copper wire. Copper wire linking the beads of the star of the sea. In a white-haired liar with a hold over me. Call me, yeah. Call me King Hurricane. Call me. Looping the loop around Jupiter's hoops. Last call on Market Street. Summon the troops. Put on a little tap dance, diverting from the truth. You could be my alley cat. I could be your oops. Shows the boys attention 'cause she don't get none at home. Queen of Carolina swears that she's the only one. Hot shower and cold sheets are her forte. Queen of Carolina calls me King Hurricane.
Check. Okay. All right. Let's see. I gotta get used to. I haven't worn these headphones in like 2 years. These headphones. Some of this stuff I'll edit out, but we can just. Yeah, I think some of it I'll edit out. But like this, maybe the parts where I'm saying I might edit this out. I'll edit out. I would start by welcoming my first ever guest, Tim Falvey. I'll describe Tim a little bit from how I know him, or from how I understand him. I guess I'll start by saying that was a very different performance of, I'll call it King Hurricane. I don't think that's not the name of the song, but it's what I remember is King Hurricane. What's the name of the song?
Reiki Queen.
Reiki Queen.
Yes.
I should know it. I've practiced it many, many times. I've seen you perform that song on Sundays at
the Ice House open mic in Somerville, South Carolina.
Yes. And that was a monster that I saw. A monster perform that. So, okay, maybe you can talk a little bit about, let's start with how do you decide to do such different interpretations, or what compels you to do different interpretations of a song like that?
I think the setting has a lot to do with how the sound comes out for me, the environment, the folks around, and the tools at hand. If I have an acoustic guitar and nothing else, it's typically going to come out like a soulful coffee house melancholy sound. If there's somebody joining me on a lead guitar and maybe 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 people in an audience, chances are I'll feed off of the energy that a group of listeners brings, and I'll pack a little more octane in the performance.
Okay. That's pretty straightforward. Let's see. I'm a terrible host. I'm a really bad host. All right, so one of the things that I'm really curious. Okay, one of the reasons that I wanted to bring you in particular to be the first person that I do this with is because I know you're pretty well traveled, and at least that's what I get the sense that you're not a musician that's just coming up in one scene. You've had experience in a number of different scenes, and it's not like I don't think you would view yourself as exactly a Charleston artist, or am I wrong on that?
You're not wrong on that.
Okay. Two different angles on this. One, how travel has shaped your music, but also, and I think for me, I'm more interested in, at this point in time, how you see travel as the potential to shape your music, or how you would make decisions going forward about where you position yourself geographically. Yeah.
Sculpting is what travel does to my music. I'll play the same 5 to 10 original tunes in 5 to 10 different cities in a year's worth of time, in an ideal scenario. And anytime you've got a different audience, a different venue, a different instrument, a different emotion that you're bringing to the open mic or the gig or the street performance that day, it'll come out differently. It will be affected by the environment differently, and you'll pick up on repeated patterns in a tune that become concretized in the final piece that the world will hear on a formal recording down the road. My tunes are ever being workshopped with every performance, every busking venture, every open mic, every gig that I perform, and traveling refines those pieces. Now, with the traveling being a almost as powerful element to my vocational direction as the music is itself, traveling has become almost as strong a craving as the performances themselves. New York City, Charleston, or Cincinnati, Ohio, maybe a Philadelphia in the United States, and to grow from there. And that's all a lot based on exposure to those places or reading books about those places that have inspired me.
There was a time where I went to New York where I thought for the first time, I've been there a number of times just for short spells. But there was one time where for the first time I wasn't intimidated by the city anymore. And maybe that's foolishness, but that sort of gave me a new appreciation where I thought, wait a second, I feel like I finally understand enough about how it works where I feel like I could figure out my way in this place. Mm-hmm. And in that way, it was really compelling. And the willingness to go discover the unknown is one of the more valuable things. Maybe that's one of the valuable things that we can do as artists. Mm-hmm. And that's what we can do is actually go into the unknown, go to places that maybe other people aren't willing to, and then we can tell those stories and tell the truth about those stories. And that is an inherent value. But you got to be willing to go take it on. But then maybe there's also just like an internal, just you want to take on the wild or something, right?
We are frontiers folk as artists. We as musicians, I feel, are more accessible as artists, as storytellers than varied other kinds of artists. We, in a way, are the art itself, because as practitioners of music, in performing live, we are tangible human beings and deliverers of a message, not just a static painting on a wall.
People are digesting your body language as much as they're digesting the music. Is that at all in line with what you're talking about?
Yeah, most certainly. And on the frontier, delving into places that have never been explored before.
There's an interesting angle there that I want to take. I want to also just touch on real quick. You're talking about sort of setting up, I don't know if you used this word, but franchises or setting up the ability to do. You and I have talked about this at a different point in time, but you sort of mentioned this a moment ago. Being able to perform in a number of different places with others, where you have sort of establish the ability to go do shows in different towns and have reliable people that you can connect with and throw a show that works. And for me, when you first talked to me about that, I thought that sounds really challenging, and that sounds like it's going to be wrought with or very prone to failure, because a lot of times music takes practice, and to be able to deliver something solid with other musicians, they have to really be able to dial in on what you're doing. However, we just did a show where we practiced together for a while, not like relentlessly for a year or anything like that, and we're able to pull it together. And I think maybe you could talk about how you see that working, or why, even if the music itself isn't, like precise funk or something, like precise, that you're still able to deliver a show that's meaningful to people, and that is accessible.
Yeah, you're referencing our performance a couple weekends ago at Common House Ale Works in North Charleston here in South Carolina. And that would be a good case in point of the type of performance I care to put on. Rally together a group of musicians who have no business hanging out together in the first place, but somehow establishing a buy-in to create something where there wasn't something there before, to create something beautiful out of imperfect parts, and to give people who are listening to the music a reason to smile, and ideally get invited to perform again at the same venue, because we've we've added value to the venue's bottom line. And I've that's been a core tenet of my primary music project, Uncle Tim's Bench, for the last 3 years or so. Pulling together people for the sake of music. There's no reason we shouldn't be able to rally together and make a halfway seamless set of songs for anywhere from 45 minutes to 3 hours, and help people tap their toes on a weekend night. Pulling together musicians who have never met before is especially exciting to me. Pulling together musicians who have never played together before, but who share at least a little bit in common vision to create and to grow, to expose ourselves, to tell a story, to share a message. And centrally to it all, in addition to the grandiose message-bearing purpose of art, I think fun is also at the core. And it was nothing but fun performing with you and a handful of other folks a couple weekends ago.
It was a lot of fun for me. I can certainly speak for myself and say I had a ton of fun. It was a great chance for me to get to stretch out on a lead. It was one of the best opportunities I've ever had to play lead and a lead guitar. And so I can't thank you enough for that. That was to get to play on the Common House Ale Works stage as a lead guitarist is just was a novel thing for me, and it helps. Like, I think those moments are really important in any artist development, in any musician's development, is getting those chances to do something you've never done before and see if it can work or not. Because until you do it, you don't know. Mm-hmm. And so to get that opportunity and then get that reference point of, I don't know that my playing necessarily blew the roof off the house, but I think I did get positive feedback, and some very good positive feedback. And so then for me, I'll use that to segue into, maybe you can talk a little more about what Uncle Tim's Bench is, the name and what the name means, because certainly Uncle Tim's Bench it lived up to its name for me. And yeah.
Sure. It all started and continues at a park bench at Waterfront Park in Charleston at the harbor here. And it's a place where I've spent countless hours busking or street performing to collect tip money for singing songs on the street. It was at that place where I really honed my belief that I could make a living as a musician, and a place that has continued to reinforce my craving for more and more and more and more chances to perform, to be in front of people, to share stories, to develop and redevelop and refine songs of my own. Uncle Tim's Bench has taken on a grander life, a highly, almost to a detriment, a highly inclusive and inviting spirit for almost all musicians to.
That's one of the catch lines is Uncle Tim's Bench, room for almost everyone. And
if you're wondering why almost everybody, well, if you're hesitant to come or you don't feel like you want to, well, you don't have to play. You don't have to be part of the experience.
That's not true. Tim's always got this melodica, and then sort of behind the scenes, he's like, "You better play this."
Right.
No, not at all.
So, multiple tenets of the project, Uncle Tim's Bench. Well, it's not a band. It's not a solo project. It's everything in between, and inclusive of band and solo performance. It is highly focused on original art. However, in the last year or so, I have deliberately incorporated cover tunes that I'm passionate about, cover stories that have made a difference to me, for better and worse. It is, like I said, almost to a detriment, highly inviting group. You will never see an Uncle Tim's Bench performance that is precise as far as the mechanics and architecture of music goes, and it is deliberately lo-fi where it is lo-fi. I'm not trying to make the quote perfectly composed performance, the perfectly delivered song. I'm trying to create the most effective performance I can make, the most engaging performance I can make. And I'm trying to do it with unrefined ingredients to create something beautiful out of imperfect elements, to create something where there wasn't something before, is magic to me. And to get to do that with a common thread of sounds that make people feel good, with artists who are hungry to get in front of others, is truly enriching to me, and something I would care to do the rest of my life.
To tag on to that, just my own thinking about that, and I would think of this as a affirmation to you, is you're talking about that it's very inclusive, almost to a self-detrimental level. I don't think that's exactly the wording that you used, but that the degree to which it is inclusive, it's like if you were wanting to make the perfect recording, better way to say it, when you bring imperfect ingredients in, or you bring raw elements in, or people that aren't as developed as musicians, or whatever the case may be, there are challenges. It's a more difficult process to get to a more refined result. And like you said, you're not necessarily going for that refined result, but it may, at least from my perspective, it very well may cost you some gigs from time to time. And so that, I mean, I would say that is generous. So hopefully people that get the opportunity to play with you recognize that. That's one of the cool things. I used to see Uncle Tim's Bench, pop up in different places before I knew Tim. I would see Uncle Tim's Bench. It's like, what is Uncle Tim's Bench? I couldn't understand what Uncle Tim's Bench would be. I was trying to wrap my head around the name. Like, And then when he explained it to me about it's a place for musicians to gather, then I was like, oh, like that totally makes sense. And so, because it's a name that's not designed from really a selfish perspective. It's not about exactly Tim. It's the bench. It's the gathering place, and it's about others. And so, yeah, I think that's one of the. It's a really original name. I don't know that I have ever heard anything like that. There may be a few other things like that, but I don't think I've ever come across that before. So it's cool. It's inclusive, and I just think it's really cool that it helps other musicians get opportunities to grow. And I don't know that there are a lot of performing musicians that make that a focal point. You know, I think most of us are trying to figure out how can I succeed, how can I win, and not as much of gathering it. Maybe maybe that's just me, but that's where my head's been at for a while, is how can I succeed, because I'm trying to eat.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that would be another opportunity to play a song.
Sure.
You talked about playing a cover song. You talked about cover songs a moment ago. I thought maybe I'd throw the idea out there of maybe sharing a cover, but also we're cool with all originals, whatever. And I can just edit that part out too, by the way. So if you want to play whatever you want to play, just play.
I think I do owe tribute to one of the artists that has helped to sculpt my type of music, my poetry, and how I deliver it. So I will play a cover tune. This is a rendition of a tune called "Bonfire" by Third Eye Blind, one of the most instrumental, pun intended, music projects in my life. Third Eye Blind has taught me how to write a song the way I know how to. They've taught me how to convey imagery and action in a bold way, and they have taught me that you can also share a message in fun, palatable, and colorful ways that people want more of. My rendition of Bonfire. A little early in spring, a bonfiring, she's shivering alone. I bumped and I knew somehow you could wear my duct tape vest. It's a party best, it's really all I own. Everything's changing now, and I am high like a star that's flying Cassiopeia. Everything's changing now. She said it's alright, don't have to die alone. This ain't goodbye, just 'cause it's good night. Oh, lightning comes and lightning goes, and it's all the same to me. Living in, oh, I want you so. I can hardly breathe or release into 1,000 pieces all over you. The chains will soon be gone. I keep burning on and on. If nothing else, I am myself. It's all I have to give. Everything's changing now. Maybe we could live like kings if we take a risk, or we could live in doubt. Everything's changing now. Alright, don't have to be alone. Is this goodbye, or is it just goodnight? Lightning comes and lightning goes, it's all the same to me. Oh, I want you so. I can hardly breathe or release into 1,000 pieces all over you. The flames will die by dawn, but I keep burning on and on and on. This is the last time. This is the last time. Oh, because lightning comes, lightning goes, and it's all the same to me. You know I want you so I can hardly breathe. Thank you. Thank you, Charleston.
I represent Charleston right now.
You do. You sure do.
I need to figure out a way to make my one hand clap into a minute.
I'm sure you can find a clap track.
I can hook my looper up and just quickly compose like a. Let's start. I'll start the next line of interrogation.
Yes.
We're talking about like a interrogation room. Before I had some really lousy chairs, and then we swapped this in.
You still got the lousy chairs. They're just
I do. They're just
in a different corner now.
Yeah, they're right around the corner, so we still have the vibe, but you don't. So let's see. I wanted to start. Maybe we can start just with a very simple one that probably you've been asked many times, which is just who would you say are your main influences on your music?
Yes, definitely. As I just shared, Third Eye Blind has taught me a lot about what my style of songwriting and delivery of music truly is. In addition, Counting Crows, the poetic whimsy of Counting Crows, the audacious and vivid imagery of Third Eye Blind, in addition to their method of performance, their in-the-momentness, their integrity as individuals, from what I've observed anyway, having seen both groups live, integrity as individuals and their revelation of their art as the core. I don't think they're out to impress people. I think they're out to tell a story. I don't think they're out to look good any more than they are out to convey an image, to convey a truth. They've taught me a lot and continue to, whether watching live performances or recordings of live performances or simply reading words of theirs. They have, in a way, permitted me or given me the feeling like I have permission to write the way I naturally write, or speak the way I naturally speak, or communicate and deliver my music the way I think I naturally would.
Are there any local artists or artists that you've met along your music journey that you would say are in a similar category in terms of their influence on you, or maybe a step down? Any local artist that you would say has had a significant impact on your actual music?
Yes, I think there are countless musicians who I've gotten to connect with personally, professionally, in performance, in talking music. I don't think it would be fair to name one of them.
Okay. Maybe I'll keep this line of thought going by expanding a little bit on why I asked the question, or what inspires me to ask the question, because I've gone to so many open mics and I've seen so many performers, and for a stretch of my life I no longer listened to music that you would find in a music store or on the radio. I just didn't even hear it. All I heard were local performers, and that was fine for me. That was my diet of music for years, and I really haven't really switched back out of that. I mostly listen to local performers and local music, and I find that fascinating. In some ways, I find it more fascinating than the developed, polished sounds that you hear on a radio. A lot of there are many songs I hear on the radio where it almost make my stomach turn with how just obviously contrived it is. And there's other ones that are gorgeous, stunning, and gorgeous. Maybe for me, a lot of my I don't know that I necessarily even understand fully how local music has shaped my own music. But I thought it's an interesting thing to think about because when you are a local musician, you are around tons of local musicians, and they will have an impact on you. So yeah, I thought maybe
Yeah, you bet. They are the environment. They are the ingredients that help shape what you're doing. We're all contributing to a grander ecosystem that we're feeding off of and feeding into. And I would hope that a musician from Charleston who makes it big is one who doesn't just look back and remember the thicket of Charleston musicians who made a difference in him, but rather he won't have to look back because he'll continually be part of that community. A community here in Charleston that weekly I find new niches in new people performing I've never even heard of, and I've been immersed in it for 4 years now. New bands, new venues. I am dumbfounded as to why and how I haven't met or heard of a continuously seemingly growing group of musicians in Charleston. So I would hope that folks not only upon quote making it big tip their hat to the Charleston community, but also continue to be part of that community, especially the open micers, especially the hungriest of musicians who may not have more formal opportunities to get on a grander stage, who aren't necessarily equipped equipment-wise or financially, or who are working their 9 to 5 and playing music in addition.
So I had like 3 different ideas, and then so they all go in different directions. Let's see if this can lead into a line of thought. I'm very driven as a musician at this point, but I don't know that my vision anymore is to make it big. And what I'm maybe more interested in is actually working on a local level for many years. And what I'm more interested in is just cultivating a local community that's on fire. Like, just awesome. What I want to be able to do is play maybe the same venue for 10 years and have just a blast with a local community. I want to get maybe you to talk about if there's any advice. I kind of don't like using that word, but anything that you could express to non-musician viewers. Oh, here, I'll say this. So we're skipping to something else. There was a time where I opened a Sunday event. Every Sunday I would play from like noon to 6 p.m. at the same place every single Sunday. And what I noticed was at this particular place, every time I arrived, there's nobody there. And it was the hardest thing to get one person to sit down. And then as soon as one person sat down, the second would follow pretty quickly. It could take 2 hours to get one person to sit down. It could take 15 minutes. It could take 45 minutes. But as soon as the first person sat down, the next person would be pretty quick. And then once there were 2, then it would start to fill up pretty quick. And so what that taught me was that most people aren't really listening with their ears, and they're more listening with their eyes. I guess they want to see validation of a space, or validation of an artist, or of the music, before they're willing to take the social risk of vouching of voting for it with their physical body by going and sitting down and actually showing people that they support this. So my question in this is, I don't know that I'm completely right about that, because I think this is a very poorly organized question. I'll just say that, but I think it will be interesting. For a stretch of time, because of that observation, I think I undervalued my audience's ability to how sharp they actually are, and that's such a poor way of saying it, but I undervalued because I saw how people are social animals and how they aren't really listening with their ears, they're listening with their eyes. But what I've noticed as time goes on is that people are very sharp, and they're able to understand things sonically that maybe they don't on a conscious level, but if all the different nuances that you do with your voice, a lot of people are able to understand those, and they feel them. So maybe it's a multifaceted question, but it's sort of like, what would you say to other people that are non-musicians to help them understand music on a conscious level? That is such an insane question. Can you explain music to the world, Tim? Like,
no.
Okay.
I can give it to you though.
Yeah.
I can give what I know of music and what I experience of music.
Okay.
I know how to work a computer for the most part, but I don't know how the computer works. I think there are people out there who know how music works intellectually, architecturally, the science and math behind it, even the history of music. And that's important, that's critical. All of that is critical. I just care to deliver it. It won't hurt to know some of the ins and outs over the course of my lifetime a little bit better. But my primary focus is to offer it rather than explain it.
I believe there are many great artists in any particular vicinity. And if you look historically, it's kind of obvious because many of the people that are now renowned as great artists at one point in time, they were not known, and that's how it is for almost, I think, just about anybody. That there's a point in time where you're not known and your work's not appreciated, and it's a struggle, and you maybe doubt yourself or whatever. But how can people identify great artists? Like, taste takes a long time to develop. But that's something that I want to try to figure out, is how to help more people believe in their ability believe in their taste enough to go sit down when they hear something that's great musically or that inspires them. Or is that just some kind of stupid thought that I have?
I don't think it's a stupid thought. I think it's a very altruistic mindset towards ushering folks into opportunities to be given a gift. A patron of music is as critical to the song as the practitioner.
Yes, it is.
A restaurant customer is just as critical to the meal as the chef. A musician can write a song and perform it, and nobody listened to it. It happens all the time. It happens all the time for me.
Yeah,
and that's fine. But I really think there are songs and there are stories and there are life experiences that without which a music patron or a customer at a restaurant, their life would be less enriching. Especially now, we've spent a whole year in we being the artists, the the granters of stories that people may not need to hear, but would and could be more enriched if they heard. We spent a whole year not providing, and speaking for myself, I am I'm in pain because I haven't been active to the degree as I would normally anticipate. But I have scores of experiences and stories and emotions that I think I can make vulnerable to a world who may not be in touch with those same universal emotions. And this past year of hibernation, because of our pandemic circumstance, has meant that fuel that I have boundless store of penting up hasn't been received, or hasn't been granted a space or a place to be consumed. So to go back to the thought that you had, I think it's a very generous and altruistic idea to usher people into opportunities to appreciate something that without which their lives would not be as enriched. The patron, the customer, the viewer, the listener.
We could talk about the one or two more things, and then maybe we'll do one more song. And one thing that maybe another angle. So if we've talked to non-musicians, maybe we can talk to musicians or people that work within the musical business, I suppose, that at the same point that we're talking about how can we get non-musician viewers to be more aware of who's around them, or be able to learn how to appreciate what's there. And that sometimes there is more of a raw element, but I think that the fact that many people, maybe a more of the general population, aren't willing to go seek out some of the more raw experiences that are available of music, because there are some fantastic performances, I'm telling you. If you go to an open mic night, okay, maybe you got to sit through a few that are difficult to sit through. One thing that I notice at open mic nights sometimes is that you get people that just do the same thing week after week after week after week, and that's tough. It gets a little grueling, especially as somebody that's what I'll do. I've done for years is go and I'll see the same performer more times than people could probably imagine. But also, when you're willing to do that, you see just some stunning performances, and you see things that you won't ever see anywhere else. And sometimes that same person, they may go that person that delivers some kind of extraordinary performance, they might go on to be into a different profession, and they don't even end up doing music, because that was your only opportunity to ever see that. Or they might go on to be a performer, but they never play that song like they did that night. Mm-hmm. And so I think that the ability to foster for people to pay more attention to their local scene and get more involved. Maybe how can we do that? And to make that a broader question that you could just talk about for a little bit is just, I think one of the things that maybe people aren't aware of, like all the different components that make up a live music scene, your booking agents, your venues, your local musicians, the guests, or your audiences, everyone is flawed, and that's the part of the things that I think sometimes people don't quite wrap their head around, and I would say that I fall into that category. I haven't wrapped my head around that. We all have to work together to make it good, and it's like we all have to figure out how to improve ourselves, and then how to communicate with each other to allow for the improvement of others and ourselves, and then that's what can make it great, because it's all of us working together at an excellent level in harmony that creates a wonderful event. You can't have a performer that performs at a great level, but the wait staff is they don't want to be there, or that spreads. And so you have to cultivate a community. But I don't know. Those are some ideas. But what are some maybe different things that you would talk about scenes, about the music scene and your involvement in it, where you could give suggestions or advice about how we could improve? Yeah.
I would encourage the working musicians in Charleston to be less of silos and more branch out, reach out to your fellow musicians in competition with you. Stop. I would charge and challenge the working musician in Charleston to stop the rat race, to enjoy the company of a fellow musician who's also hungry to make that living. Share a set with that musician you're competing with. In a way, I think we're all in the same place. Some of us are aiming for the same place. Let's try to hitch our horses and go there together.
I guess we should end it right there, and maybe lead us off with one more song, and
yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote this tune, Flowers from Paris, a few months after I learned I was going to be a dad, on a flight from Newark, New Jersey to Paris, France, for my now 1.5-year-old daughter and her mother. It goes like this. Lucky penny flicked in a wishing well. Lucky penny flicked is my wish itself. Lucky penny coming back, I see. Lucky penny, oh, lucky me. We always knew we had a little chance. Had no damn clue that our next dizzy dance would be so soon. So here's our chance, take a little chance. And now I come home with flowers from Paris and a clover from my motherland, for a mother to be and my boy or my girl. Or something or nothing in between. Flowers from Paris. Thank you again, Charleston.
Welcome. Thank you, Tim. I think I know that's technically said it's over. I just want to just do a little bit more talk just about the sort of that last train of thought that we were on.
Yeah.
About the community and working together. I think like I've heard some artists talk about, and I've been there mentally before, where I get frustrated that my audience isn't paying attention, or I don't feel like I'm getting the applause that I should get. Not exactly the applause, but the attention or the appreciation that the amount of work that I've put into it should get. And I've sort of come around on that mentally, that I don't have, if I'm not seeing the results that I want, I can't. It's not going to do me any good to be frustrated with my audience about it. It's like, it doesn't make a bit of sense. So that's just moping around. It's my responsibility to entertain the audience and win the audience over, and that the idea, and I've seen this with other artists as well, that achieve in terms of musically, in terms of what the actual sound that they're putting out is excellent. It's really good, beyond what many of the people around them are doing, and yet they don't connect with people, and they aren't connecting with people, and then they get frustrated because they aren't seeing the appreciation that they think their hard work deserves. Would you second that? Would you verify, or would there be suggestions to artists that think that they can, or musicians that think that they can achieve a musical excellence, and then that's going to get them what they want? Is there more to the musical game than that, or is there more to music than that? That's not exactly the right question, but maybe you kind of get where I'm going with that.
You can make it to the metaphorical top without. I think you can make it to the metaphorical top without being a team player. You can be that good. I think it's more fun. First of all, I think it's more fun to share a stage with multiple people who are having the time of their life. Second of all, music wasn't my first language. I don't have the skill set, the music theory, the chops of a lot of musicians that I interact with. I know I'm not making it to the metaphorical top by myself. I think strategically, for me, if I want to get to the upper levels of music performance, and if I wanted to be a household name, I'd have to surround myself with musicians who are better than me, and not only overcome the intimidation I have over trying to learn from people who know music, but also learn to be okay with that. And yeah, you can make it to the top as a very skilled and very proficient musician and outrun everybody else. That's not how I'm going to the top.
Yeah, I think you're right. You can do that. But that's probably a pretty cold and lonely path, because it's not fun. It's just, you got to put your head down and you just grind and you grind and you grind. Because to be the absolute best, that's what you have to do. Because there's a bunch of people that are also doing that, and you have to put in a lot of work and a lot of time to develop that ability, and that's hard work. It's not a lot of fun, and it's just cold. It's cold, robotic.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, but there's also the playing. If that's the mentality that you're going up on a stage, I think especially the early stages that you're on before you reach a level where you're so proficient that you are out playing everyone or whatever, however you want to conceptualize that. it won't have, I think, a huge component. If you get up on the stage thinking that your musical prowess is going to win over your audience, there's a huge component that you're, I think, is mentally missing, which is you're there for them. And so, yeah, maybe you could talk about, is that ever anything that you've struggled with, or like in terms of when you get up on a stage, it being about yourself, or have you always, is it always a component of your performance that you're very well aware that you're up there for others and you're actively looking to engage and serve your audience?
I very much so care to, again, use the word I used before, as a practitioner of music. I care very much so for the music to be a healing balm for whomever is available to offer music and live performance, animated delivery of a story, to help people feel where they may have forgotten to feel, to do it in a safe place and safe way, to be healed myself while performing. And that's remained more or less consistent. More so, I'm a lot more aware now that the power of live performance as a healing solution for people. I'm a lot more aware that there is a power and a responsibility to that as a live performer, and that's become more of my focus rather than and not so much the desire to create a sound that makes me feel good because it feels good. Like, no, I have capacity in me as a creator or as a vehicle to deliver something. I have a capacity to help, and that's I'm more conscious of that.
I was going to say awesome. I was going to go that's, and I was going to add the word awesome.
Thank you.
All right, let's maybe you could tell everybody where some of your upcoming shows, where they can follow you, where they can listen to some of your music.
Sure.
And yeah.
You can find on social media almost all of my exploits, announcements, videos, some recordings under the handle Uncle Tim's Bench, whether on Facebook or LinkedIn even, or Instagram. I have the most exciting performance that I'm looking forward to coming up will be on May 5th at Awendaw Green in Awendaw, South Carolina. It'll be a full band gig with a slew of diverse musicians, some of whom I have just met, some of whom I've known for a few years, but none of whom have performed together before. Coming up May 5th, Awendaw Green in Awendaw, South Carolina. Check it out, the Barn Jam. Between now and then, there will be hands full of restaurant gigs at places like Neighborhood Tap House in North Charleston,
Stone's Throw
Tavern in West Ashley, Homegrown Brew House in Somerville.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. I guess I'll shake your hand, yeah?
Yeah,
thank you,
brother.
man. All right.
Thank you, Noah.
We did our first one. It's in the books. Yeah, everybody, this is Tim Falvey. Check him out. I'll just say one of my, you have a lot of your own favorite songs of yours. I love Reveille. I love a number of his different songs. Reveille, for me, maybe I even like Flowers from Paris more, actually. I like Flowers from Paris a lot in terms of just listening to it. But Reveille is like, I'm gonna do this, you know, like, and so if you like need motivation, go listen to Reveille, and yeah, thank you guys for tuning in to Noah's Groovecast, episode 1. Yeah, hope we'll do a bunch more of these, and we'll continue to see what this podcast is, I guess. Thank you.
I can't wait for the outtake reel.
Yeah. It's going to be stupid. All right. Cool. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, man.